So much I need to discuss with you guys at home tonight. Thank you very much for joining me. Alongside me tonight till 7, my panel. I've got Zia Youssef, the chairman of Reform UK, and Scarlett Maguire, former Labour advisor. Good evening to both of you. You're very welcome. As are each and every one of you. You know the drill, don't you? You can get in touch with me all the usual ways. You can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. You can tweet or X me, or of course, you can go to the website gbnews.com/yoursay. You can talk to me and each other there. Where did we start this evening? Where do you ever look at the news, everyone, and just look at it all and just sometimes throw your head in your hands in the air, and just go, what on earth is going on in this country? Apparently, though, it's not just this country, because Keir Starmer, you know by now, he's been in Germany, he's been in Paris, the meeting of the minds, apparently. It's not just talking about things like trade deals, though. Oh, no. It's talking about things like the rise of, I quote, the far right, and things like populism, nationalism as well. Apparently, Keir Starmer is very worried about this indeed. He wants to work with some of the European progressive parties to take the fight to the, quote, far-right parties. So what do we make to all of this then? Zia Youssef, let me start with you. Your thoughts?
Well, look, this is turning out to be a dystopian Keir Starmer Labour government, worse than any of us could have ever feared. Let's get something clear about the term far-right. According to Keir Starmer and his Labour government, anyone to the right of Karl Marx and Lenin are considered far-right. I mean, if thinking that we should have secure borders, if believing that violent criminals should be in jail, if believing that we should have a coherent immigration policy, if believing that we should be prioritising, the government of the United Kingdom should put citizens of the United Kingdom ahead of citizens of foreign countries. If these are now to be considered far right, then God help us all. The reality is what we're seeing in Europe is a large number of people in the European populace waking up to the fact that totally uncontrolled mass migration, catastrophic population explosion, and being incapable to build infrastructure to deal with it, seeing cultures like German culture, like French culture, essentially dissipate at the hands of such enormous numbers of people coming into these countries. That is why these countries' populations are saying we've had enough and are voting not for the sort of leftist governments that we have seen.
Scarlett?
Let's begin. Keir Starmer believes that violent criminals should be in jail. That's what he did after the riots. So let's kill that one. He is
only after announcing he would release tens of thousands of criminals from prison
who were not violent. Right, the people who are being released early are not violent. The violent.
There are many examples of violent criminals being released. Many examples.
The violent people that we saw on television were jailed, and some were jailed for months, or they were jailed for years. There was absolutely no question, and they went straight to jail. There was no question about what he did.
The ones we saw on television, you're absolutely right. But what about the ones that the media do not put on television because they're inconvenient and don't follow the narrative? Those violent criminals have been released to make way for a very specific category of violent criminals.
You haven't actually given me violent criminals who have been the people who are being released, because there are quite a lot of people in jail who are not violent. And
hold on, then.
I'll give you one example. Yeah. There was a man who murdered somebody with a machete whose sentence was cut short and released. That was just one example, and there are many, many more such examples.
You're talking about, so I was just about to pipe in with this example. There was a young lad called Gordon Galtz. He was attacked. He was 14. He was attacked with machetes. He was very sadly killed. Well, one of those kids that was involved in that killing, he is going to be released early. The mother of Gordon, the teenager that was killed, she's spoken out about this. She's deeply distraught by the fact that he's going to be released early because of overcrowding. So that's just one example.
Right. But there are very few, and they have been trying to put...
Well, we've gone from none to very few.
When you say...
Quite a serious crime.
No. When you say... But you said that Keir Starmer doesn't believe in jailing violent criminals.
Because that's what his actions demonstrate.
And his actions after the riots actually showed that he was. Can I say to pretend that Keir Starmer is some sort of Marxist... When he talks about the far right, we're talking in France about Marine Le Pen's party. We're talking about, in Germany, the AfD, right? And here we're talking about the people who are writing. And actually, before the riots, what Keir Starmer said is the way to deal with this sort of politics is to deliver. And that's what we have to do. Because actually, what most people in Britain, what they want is fairness.
But hang on, when you're talking about the far right, you've just said it's people like that that have been rioting. So, for example, the primary school child that the police seemed to, what looked to me like it was some kind of weird dawn raid that they took great pride in broadcasting everywhere. Is that who you're calling far right then, this primary school child?
No, I'm talking about the leaders. I mean, I think a lot of people got worked up in the riots.
So the leaders, the right. So hang on, because I'm just trying to ascertain, because I do think it's important that we all are on the same page about what we're talking about. So we're not talking about the 11-year-old children that were rioting. We're talking about the leaders of those riots. So you're talking about the people in Hare Hills as well. You're calling those people far right.
No, the people in Hare, I mean, it was a completely different sort of thing, wasn't it?
But they were rioters, though, weren't they?
They were rioters.
They flipped over a police car. They flipped over a police car. They torched a bus, and the police ran away. That was the difference.
We know that all sorts of people riot, and we know that the left have rioted.
But are they?
I was specifically talking about. I was specifically talking about the people who thinking that a Muslim might have killed those children, went to try and set fire to a mosque. I would call that far right.
And do you know who started that? Do you know who the gentleman was who was charged now with cyber terrorism for actually being the person who started off that entire vicious false rumour online? Was actually a Pakistani man. Is he far right?
Right. Well, I think anybody who starts...
Well, my point is that there's this narrative to which all of these data points must fit. And your point saying that Keir Starmer has been incredibly firm in wanting to put violent criminals in jail with regards to the quote-unquote far-right riots. And by the way, let me just be really clear. I and the Reform Party absolutely condemn violence in all of its forms.
Right,
and those are abhorrent. But let me be clear. In that instance, let me finish my point. Let me finish my point with respect. In that instance, for those particular people, Keir Starmer and this government, and indeed appears to be the judicial system, are perfectly happy to throw the book at them, performative, BBC live-streamed trials. For people from other groups, totally the opposite. The police essentially fled the scene in Hare Hills, leaving the populace to fend for themselves. A police car was flipped, a bus was torched, other cars were torched. It was a godsend and very fortunate that there weren't serious injuries or murders in that situation. You see the way that the police have policed, for example, the Notting Hill Carnival. I mean, the reports of over 50 police officers were attacked during that festival. The reports coming back from the police read more like something out of a report from a war zone than they read a festival. So there's a totally different way that our police and that the government and indeed now our judicial system are approaching these different people. And that's the fundamental point that I'm making.
Well, I mean, and look at the Just Stop Oil people who've been jailed for 5 years.
Why? Why were they jailed for 5 years?
They were jailed for 5 years for eco-terrorism, basically.
Yeah, but why? What did they do that made the judge do that?
They were holding people up, right? They were disrupting. What I'm saying...
No, because we need to be clear about this, because they weren't just jailed for holding people up. That's not what happened. The group that you're talking about, which included people like Roger Hallam, they were given such huge sentences because what they conspired to do, so this was not a random, spontaneous act of, let's just hold that fella up at the lights for half an hour to chant my Just Stop Oil statement. What this was, it was deliberate, planned conspiracy to try and bring motorway networks to an absolute halt. That would have affected the lives of millions of people. Food supply,
what I'm saying, Michelle,
law and order. And hang on, those people, they were already on bail for similar, what you call holding people up. So these guys had form. They were mostly out on bail. They had convictions previously, some of them as long as my arm. So that's why they got such harsh convictions. That's very different to a 15-year-old or a whatever kid with often completely unblemished records being chucked in the slammer. So I do just want to make that distinction. But anyway, carry on.
But you talk about two-tier policing. What I'm saying is the Just Stop Oil people are not on the right, OK, and they got jailed. That's what I'm saying is that everybody's getting it, right? Can I quickly...
What about the fella that chucked that stuff at Nigel Farage?
He's got a suspended sentence.
He got a suspended sentence for throwing a cup of cement at one of our political leaders during a general election campaign. And I will tell you, someone who works with Nigel every single day, there is no braver politician in this country. And anyone less brave, I can tell you, would have withdrawn themselves a long time ago from the political landscape in this country. It's actually quite terrifying how the judicial system, this actually isn't policing, this is actually the judicial system, which in some ways is even more of a concern because it's obviously independent. The judicial system has essentially said that our political leaders are no longer off limits. And that, I think, is a terrifying thing, given the violence that has been inflicted on political leaders in this country in recent times.
It's always been like that. I mean, the person who threw an egg at John Prescott did not get jailed, right? I mean, nobody...
No, hang on. Right. Sorry, I feel like I'm cutting in all the time and I don't want to. We're in a political time where apparently this new government is desperate. They are falling over themselves to tell a lesson to people, teach a lesson to people that you can't go around behaving like this. So you've got this fast-track, supercharged, very quick route into prison for people that are doing wrong when it suits the government. This is a political climate where apparently you want to dissuade people from doing wrong. So if you're going to attack a politician, that is, in my book, a definition of doing something wrong. So whilst we're in this current kind of moment, it's very different to how it was all those years ago when John Prescott punched that fella with the egg.
Yeah. But
so it's different then, isn't it?
What I'm saying is, of course, I condemn and I didn't know it was cement. I thought somebody threw a milkshake at him.
No, well, that was a separate, situation.
I mean, of course, and I've been here and I've condemned it.
So you don't think that person should have gone to jail? You don't think he should serve time in jail?
I don't know. I mean, that's the judiciary. I mean, it's the judiciary.
Well, I'm asking you your opinion.
I actually try not to have opinions on things that I don't know a lot about. I don't.
Well, somebody. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward case.
No. This is. You're telling me what happened. I would rather.
So you didn't see it.
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I didn't see it. I saw the milkshake, and the next morning I was on here and I said that it's absolutely wrong because actually I said Nigel Farage had no idea what was in that milkshake, and people might think it's funny, but it's not.
Most people will know what we're talking about, that coffee cup. That was the one on the open-top bus where the fella went into that kind of concealed area. It was, like, fenced off or whatever, and he picked that stuff out the bin. He lobbed it at Farage on that bus. That's what we're talking about. Anyway, I've gone off topic. Keir Starmer, my point is, Keir Starmer keeps rabbiting on about the so-called far right, but no one even seems to be able to define what it is. And even just in your definition, we've gone from, you defined the far right as people that rioted. Then you said, OK, it's not the kids, it's the leaders. Then when I've put to you, well, the Hare Hills riots is far right, then you say, no, they're not far right. Then when you say, you mean the far right people are the ones that are targeting the mosque, and then he points out that it was actually some random fella in Pakistan that spread all those rumours, then you don't think he's far right.
Who didn't target the mosque? I mean,
hang on, it's going to have to have very long arms if he's sitting in Pakistan, isn't it? To be able to target a mosque in the UK.
What I'm saying is I think that people who go to a mosque to try and set it on fire, which is what happened, right? I mean...
It's disgraceful. It's criminal behaviour. I mean...
That is clear, right? There's no one at this table who doesn't think that that is an abhorrent thing to do and that those people should go to jail. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But do you not think people who commit murder with machetes should also go to jail and not be released early?
Of course
At a time when we seem to have people running around wielding machetes in this country almost every week.
Of course I do.
Do you think the Reform Party are far right?
No, I don't think they are far right. Actually, I don't think the Reform Party are far right, but I don't agree with them.
It's fair enough.
Well, there you go.
But we're only picking one. What I'm saying is, I also don't think that Keir Starmer or the Labour Party are far left, and that's what you were trying to do. Is you were saying that he condemns anybody to the right of Karl Marx. I mean, Keir Starmer would barely call himself a socialist.
What do you think? Blimey. Ponder that one. Keir Starmer apparently wouldn't even call himself a socialist. What do you make to that?